of 1993. As I prepare to welcome Ashley Appleman, class of 2007, as the new Alumni Association president, it is truly an honor to conduct the 2017 Alumni Awards Assembly as my final event. Each year, the Juniata College Alumni Association honors fellow alumni during Alumni Weekend. This assembly is the culmination of a year of hard work and a process in which many have participated. It begins with the alumni, faculty, and staff who take the time to submit nominations for classmates, friends, and former students. It continues with the members of the Alumni Council Awards and Nominations Committee who have the difficult task of selecting the award winner. And it comes to a close with the individuals you see before you this morning. I would like to extend my deep gratitude to everyone who played a role in making this occasion possible, especially Christy Brown, that class of 1992, who led the selection committee. Thank you. At this time, I would like to introduce Juniata President Jim Troha.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to have everybody here for what is always a terrific event, often an emotional event, and it's just a great, in some ways, a start to our Alumni Weekend. I know we've been together for a little bit yet, but it's always a tremendous event where we get to celebrate the achievements of 4 Juniata grads. So I want to just take this brief opportunity to welcome all of our guests. I know I met many of you last night at the all-class celebration, some of you at the milestone breakfast, and we'll be able to break bread out at the quad here for lunch here in just a little bit. So this morning we do celebrate something very special, and that is the outstanding achievements of 4 Juniata graduates. They join a distinguished group of awardees who've been recognized in the past, and they will now serve as a model and inspiration for Juniata students and alumni for years to come. If there is one thing that is certain about Juniata is that our alumni are changing the world for the better each and every day. So Howard, Elena, Michael, and Karen, congratulations for all that you've accomplished, and thank you for bringing honor to Juniata. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jim. At this time, we will present the awards. The Alumni Achievement Award has been given annually since 1971. It recognizes someone who has distinguished himself or herself over a period of years and who has achieved a pinnacle position in his or her chosen profession. The recipient of the 2017 Alumni Achievement Award is Howard Nathan, class of 1975. Rohinton Morris, class of 1980, will present the award. Rohinton and Howard, please come forward.
Good morning, everybody. It's been many, many years since I've been back, but it's an incredible, intense honor and pleasure to give this achievement award to Howard Nathan, who's been a friend, a colleague, and a fellow alumnus. Before I read the official citation, I have a few remarks to make. For you, I want to paint a little bit of a historical and a personal vignette to lay some groundwork to understand what Howard Nathan has actually done. It's 1967, the first heart transplant done by Dr. Christian Bernard is performed in South Africa. It changes the world, puts him on the cover of Time magazine, and it ushers in a new era of transplantation. What is little known about that story, the donor for that heart was brought to that hospital, was put on the heart-lung bypass machine, and when the patient finally died, the machine was turned on. 20 years later, donors no longer have to be brought to the hospital. We go to where the donors are. It's a life-changing event. I'm sure it was not something that when Howard and I went to college we even thought about, but Juniata prepares you for what you're going to find out there in the world. And it clearly was something that changed Howard's path, and because of that it changed my path. I was doing my cardiothoracic surgical residency, and during that time we started a heart transplantation program. And as a young resident, I went out on my first, what we call a donor harvest. Little did I know that that day would actually change my life. I went there, we flew a couple hours, there were 6 teams there, a heart team, a lung team, a liver team, a kidney team. And I found out from the coordinator at that time, the organ procurement organization was called Kidney One, that they were going to take corneas, skin, and bone after we had taken our organs. What an incredible event. It's a life-changing event that put me on the path to cardiac transplantation. Over the next decade, as I ascended and understood this incredible feat, I was reminded, when everybody talks about the glory of transplantation, the glory is given to the surgeon or to the implanting team. But what Howard understood very early on, the glory is actually to the donor and to the donor family. That is who needs to be honored. That is why the name of the program is called Gift of Life. Howard has affected so many patients, so many teams, and I can tell you, in that moment of grief when somebody dies, to have the training, to have the structure, for his coordinators to come up and ask for a gift of life, that's life-changing. For many of us that have gone on to careers that we didn't even think about when we were at Juniata, we have to thank where we were. And Howard demonstrates what the crucible of education does for us. When we go out in the world gives us problems. Juniata shows us how to have solutions. When the world shows us rancor, Juniata shows us grace. When the world shows us self-promotion, Juniata tells us to work for service to others. When the world accepts the status quo, Juniata showed us to strive for excellence. And with that excellence, I'm reminded of a phrase. Excellence can be achieved if you care more than others think is wise, risk more than others think is safe, dream more than others think is practical, and expect more than others think is possible. Today, Howard, I and many others are indebted to you for showing us excellence. I will now read the official citation. Whereas Howard M. Nathan, a member of the class of 1975, has distinguished himself in his profession, and whereas after graduating with a Bachelor of Science degree in Biology and Pre-Medicine from Juniata, he earned his Master of Public Health degree from the University of Pittsburgh in 1978. And whereas he began his career in 1975 as a research specialist at the Wistar Institute in Philadelphia, and whereas in 1978 he joined the Gift of Life donor program, then known as the Delaware Valley Transplant Program, as a senior transplant coordinator, before being promoted in 1984 to his current role of President and Chief Executive Officer. And whereas under his leadership, Gift of Life has grown into the largest organ donation program in the world, encompassing a network of 15 transplant centers, 41 organ-specific programs, 131 donor hospitals, having provided more than 42,000 transplants since the organization's founding in 1974. And whereas he pioneered Pennsylvania's mandatory patient referral policy that became state law in 1994, affording all potential donor families the donor option and establishing a driver's license registry in which there are currently more than 4.6 million registered donors, a statewide organ and tissue donor awareness advisory committee, and a trust fund to support educational and public awareness initiatives. And whereas he has become a leading authority on organ and tissue donation, having published more than 350 scientific papers and abstracts, presented his work in 17 countries around the globe, and consulted with numerous national and international media outlets. And whereas he has served as a leader on a variety of boards throughout his career, including the United Network for Organ Sharing, the Association of Organ Procurement Organizations, Donate Life America, the International Society for Organ Donation and Procurement, Pennsylvania's Governor's Organ Donation Advisory Committee, the National Disease Research Interchange, Musculoskeletal Transplant Foundation Governing Board, and LifeLogix. And whereas he was appointed by the Secretary of Health and Human Services to lead the National Advisory Committee on Organ Transplantation, a group that advises the Secretary on all aspects of organ procurement, allocation, and transplantation. And whereas Howard has been recognized for his advocacy and contributions to the scholarship of transplantation with numerous awards from organizations including the National Kidney Foundation, the U.S. Transplant Games Committee, the Association of Organ Procurement Organization, the American Liver Foundation, the National Disease Research Interchange, LifeNet Health, and the International Society for Organ Sharing Congress. Now therefore be it resolved that this award is presented to him in recognition of lifetime achievements in his career. It is an honor and a privilege to present Howard M. Nathan with this citation of achievement by direction of the Alumni Council.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Ro, for traveling up here to give this award. Ro and I actually didn't know each other until he started doing transplants about 20 years ago. And now he's a very distinguished professor and chief of cardiothoracic surgery in the Jefferson Health System. So thank you to the Alumni Council and the Awards Committee and Dr. Troha and all the distinguished alumni here. I really feel very fortunate to have forged a career around organ donation and transplantation. As Rose said, in 1975, after graduating from Juniata, I became a research biologist at a Wistar Institute in Philadelphia, running an electron microscope laboratory. The only reason I got the job was because I took that as an elective here in my senior year at Juniata. It's the truth. In 1978, as Ro also said, you have a lot of things that were in my speech. I was hired by 5 kidney transplant surgeons in Philadelphia to be the 3rd transplant coordinator at a very small nonprofit program, now called Gift of Life. As a coordinator, it was my job to be on call 24/7 and to travel to hospitals in 3 states and to make requests for organ donation from families after they had just lost a loved one. It was a difficult job, dealing with sudden loss, but I've always felt that when families said yes to donation, it would help not only the transplant recipients who received the gift, but also those families who gave the gift, hopefully making the worst possible time in their lives to make some sense by giving others a second chance. It was also my responsibility to make sure that the kidneys were functioning normally and to assist the transplant surgeons in surgery, preserve the kidneys, and transport them to the hospital where they were transplanted. In 1984, I did become the CEO, but the organization was 12 people. It was extremely small. Around that time, surgeons began to perform heart, liver, and then lung transplants because of new techniques and new anti-rejection drugs that made the organ survival from around 30 to 40% successful to nearly 85 to 95% successful. I felt like I was on the cutting edge of medicine, something that I'd only dreamed as a student here at Juniata. In 1994, we did put organ donor on the driver's license and passed a law that mandated hospitals to make routine referrals when people pass away so that the 2 donor programs in the state could make requests from families. We were the first in the United States, and it was so successful that it became a model for federal law. I grew up in Johnston. My father died of a heart attack when I was 9 years old. My mom raised 3 kids by herself. She made minimum wage as a retail clerk, but always instilled in me core values to work hard, strive to be the best, do the right thing, be a good person, and above all, don't be a hypocrite. She didn't like people who did one thing, said one thing, and did another. When I chose Juniata in 1971, there was this new curriculum called Program of Emphasis, POE, and allowed me to create my own pathway. That design allowed me to grow and taught me about new opportunities in life, not just to accept what fate hands you. It has inspired my career to strive for the best possible outcomes, and Juniata was the right place for me. This translates in my work today, making the transition between life and death for families suffering a devastating loss, to help them make a decision that can make a tragedy turn into new lives for others. As just one donor can save as many as 8 people within 24 hours for organ transplant, and as many as 75 others who receive the gifts of tissue transplants, such as corneas that give the gift of sight, skin for healing burn victims, and people who have wounds that don't heal, and bone that is used in repairing spines, knees, and improves their quality of life. It really does change lives, almost instantaneously. I'm proud of my team at Gift of Life. It is a team effort, which is now over 215 people. And we do it in partnership with the transplant surgeons, the transplant teams at the 15 hospitals in our region, and we've saved more than 44,000 lives for organ transplants, and nearly 700,000 people have received life-enhancing tissue transplants. It only works because of the generosity of others from those individuals who gave the gifts. Right now, there are 120,000 people waiting for a transplant in this country, and over 5,500 here in our region in the eastern half of Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey, and Delaware. So the job is never done. For the past 39 years, I've been so fortunate to be able to meet and train people from all over the world, as Rose said. In fact, we started a training center at Gift of Life called the Gift of Life Institute in 2005, and we've trained more than 7,000 professionals in the US and all over the world. I've had the opportunity to travel to 17 countries, and actually next week I'm going to China for the 6th time. The idea is to teach our best practices throughout the world to improve lives. Not a bad guy who never was on an airplane until I was 24 years old. 2 events in my personal life brought it all home for me. One was after I had been in the field about 13 years, my own sister went on the transplant waiting list with a fatal liver hereditary disease. I was on the other side now. After she waited 2.5 years and went down to 83 pounds, a liver match was found, and she was transplanted successfully in 1991. During that time, I witnessed other families who came for transplant to Philadelphia and not have a place to stay during the process. This one woman came from Hershey with her 2 little kids for a transplant operation for her husband, and she had no place to stay. It took me 20 years, but in 2011, we opened the Gift of Life Family House, which now supports families from all over this region and all over the country who come to Philadelphia. It's like a 30-room Ronald McDonald House for patients and families who come to Philadelphia for transplant. Since we opened, we've provided 35,000 nights of care and 110,000 meals. The second event in my family was about 6 years ago, when my wife's niece, 4 years old, had spinal meningitis and could not be saved. Little Sophia ended up brain dead, and her parents decided to donate her organs. She saved 2 people. There are so many people I've met in my life who are now doing fantastic because of a life-saving transplant and because of the expertise of surgeons like Roe Morris. Like Jay Kafer from Reading, who was born with a broken heart on Valentine's Day, as his mother says. And at the age of 7 months, he received a heart transplant, basically the size of about a walnut. That was 21 years ago, and I saw him last week. He's now a junior at LaSalle College. Or Gabrielle, who had a liver transplant when she was 11 months old, and now is a nurse and about to get married at the age of 27. And then there's those families like Cynthia London, whose 24-year-old was a donor and saved 6 lives 20 years ago, and she's still a volunteer and a good friend. And just last week, I was at the family house when there were 2 little girls, 12-year-old twins who had a rare genetic lung disease, and both had transplants a year apart. I saw them playing with our therapy dog in the living room of the family house. I can't explain these feelings. I'm getting a little choked up. But being able to orchestrate the transition from someone's deepest loss to new life still gives me chills. Every day, it's a tremendous privilege. The small town values that I got by my mom and all the things I learned here at Juniata not only prepared me academically, but also taught me about determination and compassion for others. And speaking of compassion, there's one more person I wanted to thank. It's my wife, Liz, who supported me every day for the past 23 years. Thanks, Liz. So thanks to the Alumni Council, thanks Dr. Troha, and to all the alumni here for this fantastic honor. I'm very humbled, and I'm very grateful to be among the folks sitting here, Ellie, Karen, and Michael. And one more thing. I don't know, I'm not going to ask for a raise of hands of who's an organ donor. But it only takes 30 seconds to sign up online, so do it today. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Howard. The Young Alumni Achievement Award has been given annually since 2000. It honors someone who has distinguished herself or himself in the chosen profession during the first 15 years following graduation from Juniata College. The recipient of the 2017 Young Alumni Achievement Award is Elena, class of 2006. Professor Jamie White will present the award. Jamie and Ellie, please come forward.
I truly am honored to be able to introduce Ellie to you and to read her citation in a few minutes. As you hear the citation, you might get the impression that there are 2 sides to Ellie. A side of outstanding achievement in high-energy nuclear physics, and a side of great national leadership in dedication to the broadening of gender understanding, inclusion, and equity. But I was here when you showed up at Juniata. So were a couple of people that were out here. And we saw the excitement that you had. We saw some struggles that you had. And we tried to share them. And when you realized that you could play and laugh for the rest of your life, and that you could work on the understanding and meaning and mechanisms of nature, and also that you could, or at least that you started to realize early on, that you could be yourself, and you could come out as not fitting the gender that the binary system of our society had tried to designate to you. A light turned on, or at least it brightened. And it grew. You started down a path that inspired people like me to be better, to be more inclusive, and to continue to seek the light in each of our students in so many ways. To me, these 2 sides of your resume, the great leadership that you've seen and that you've shown to the physics community and to the science community in general, and also this dedication to understanding of nature and the understanding of the nature of people has only grown, and I see it as one thing together, these two sides. So I read your citation. Here we go. Whereas Elena A. Long, a member of the class of 2006, has distinguished herself in her profession, and whereas after graduating cum laude with a Bachelor's of Science degree in physics from Juniata College in 2006, she went on to earn a master's degree and doctorate in physics from Kent State University in 2008 and 2012. Whereas she began her career in 2006 with a teaching assistantship at Kent State University. They left out that you were a teaching assistant for us too. She was great. Followed by posts as a graduate student researcher and collaborator at Kent State University and the Thomas Jefferson National Accelerator Facility from 2008 to 2012. And whereas she began her service as a postdoctoral research associate at the University of New Hampshire in 2013, where she is now a tenure-track assistant professor of physics, which is quite notable in today's economy to get a tenure-track position in physics right now. Whereas she has published more than a dozen articles in a variety of peer-reviewed journals, including Physical Review Letters, Nuclear Instruments and Methods in Physics, and Nature. And whereas she has been invited to give seminars, colloquia, and talks about her work and research across the U.S. and around the world, including Manitoba, Canada, and Rome, Italy, and a number of other places. Where she has earned prestigious scientific honors, including the Jefferson Science Associates Promising Young Scientist Grant, the Jefferson Science Associates Prize for Outstanding Postdoctoral Fellow, in recognition as one of Nature's 10 in 2016. Look that one up on the web. That is really impressive. And whereas she has complemented her academic contributions to the STEM fields by tirelessly advocating for LGBTQ+ inclusion and equity, founding the LGBT+ Physicists Support Organization in 2009, and whereas she served from 2011 to 2017 as Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion with OSTEM National, also known as Out in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. From 2013 to 14 on the University of New Hampshire's President's Committee on the Status of GLBT Issues, and from 2014 to 2016 as the ad hoc member of the American Physical Society's Committee on LGBT Issues, where she co-authored the LGBT Climate in Physics report, which was featured in Nature and in Scientific American. Whereas Elena has been awarded several honors for her advocacy, including the OSTEM National STEM Service Award, Juniata College's Office of Diversity and Inclusion Award in recognition of alumni advocacy, and the University of New Hampshire's Bill Kidder Award, which fosters understanding and advances opportunity for LGBT-related causes. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this award is presented to her in recognition of her career achievements and for representing the ideals of the Juniata community by striving for excellence in all of her endeavors. It is an honor and a privilege to present Elena A. Long with this citation of achievement by direction of the Alumni Council.
I want to start by saying that I am so incredibly excited because I have what I think is the best job in the world, and a large part of being on that path, as Jamie had mentioned, was starting here at Juniata. When I came here, I was newly out of high school from an area of rural Pennsylvania where pretty much everybody grows up to do what their parents did. There were no scientists there. That wasn't a thing real people did, as far as I knew. And it wasn't until later in my career here at Juniata, which really kicked off particularly when I started taking a modern physics course and just realized how weird and strange the fundamental reality of reality is. And not only that, but that we can study it and know it, and because it's so fundamental, it's a part of each and every one of us. And that just sucked me into physics completely. And when I came in, my initial plan was to use the POE program to create a new major in digital media, which I'm excited now exists, so I could go work for Pixar, and took physics classes to try and make computer graphics better. But man, when I found this out, I dropped that entirely, because looking at the quantum world and how strange and beautiful and wonderful that was just blew away any fiction I could possibly put up on a screen. I had no idea what I was going to do with a physics degree until, I don't remember if it was my junior or senior year, when I was approached with the question of, so which grad schools are you applying to? And I was like, I can't go to grad school, I can't afford that. What are you talking about? And then they told me that for physics, they'll pay you to go to grad school. And I was like, I can keep doing this and get paid? Yes, absolutely. So off I went to grad school. Found out that you can only get paid in grad school if you go Ph.D. track. So I went Ph.D. track, figuring worst case scenario, I'll end up with a master's. And figure out what to do with my life then, I guess. But I ended up passing my qualifier exam and getting the opportunity to spend the rest of my research years in grad school working at a national laboratory, studying the fundamental bits of reality that make up each and every one of us. And I just jumped on that opportunity. And when I went down to Jefferson Lab, this has a really long name that Jamie impressively mentioned. We just call it J-Lab because none of us remember it. Thomas Jefferson National Accelerator Facility, there we go, but J-Lab. To be able to work there and go in there not only for the first time and then for the next 5 years, and now every time I go down there with my own experiments that I've recently got approved and will be running in the near future, it just blows me away every single time stepping into one of those experimental halls. Because you first come on site for this accelerator that has a racetrack about a mile in diameter that we shoot electrons through. You can think of it as like a 5-mile long bolt of lightning, the width of a human hair, that we aim on these little targets that we build, that I'm building right now at the University of New Hampshire. And then we scatter the electrons, this lightning bolt, off of it and measure different states of what comes out of it. But when you go down into the experimental hall, you go into this kind of nondescript building, and you go down this elevator shaft about 6 stories down into the ground. You come out through this little maze of concrete hallways, and then you step into it. And it is a 6-story tall cylinder, about a football field in diameter, with these machines in there that have the footprint of about a mobile home. They're 5 stories tall. They're on these big train wheels we can move around. And I get to work there. Every time I go in there, it's still just the scale of it, the fact that we're using this massive, massive machinery to understand these tiny, tiny little bits of nature blows me away. And the fact that starting in August, I found out just about a month ago that I get to do this now as a tenure track professor at the University of New Hampshire. And not only that, but get to share my excitement about this field with students who I'm sure some will, like me, have no idea what they're going to be doing. It just makes me feel so incredibly privileged to be able to do it, and it all started here. And as I go into this, I'm also very recognizant of the fact that last year, when we published our LGBT climate and physics report, we, for the first time ever, were able to get numbers on how many of us there are in physics, which means that I will be joining only 1% of faculty members, tenure track faculty members who are LGBT, which is a very small number. And particularly distressing with that, combination of exciting and distressing is that number gets whittled down if you go a little bit earlier and look at how many of us there are as undergrads. We found that there's about 14% of physics undergrads are LGBT. When they go to graduate school, that drops down to about 9%. When they become postdocs, that drops to about 6%. And then at the faculty level, at all levels, it hovers right around 9%. Since I moved down to Jefferson Laboratory, what I found there was a complete lack of community for LGBT scientists. When I was here on campus, there was AWOL, which was amazing in helping me learn more about who I am and love myself and other people. When I went to Kent State, there were similar organizations. When I went to Jefferson Lab, there was nothing. And I remember the first ever conference that I went to for the American Physical Society. I went to a lunch provided by the Committee on the Status of Women in Physics. And being a young, naive graduate student looking for resources, I kind of timidly raised my hand and asked where the resources were for LGBT people. The entire room went silent for about 30 seconds, followed by somebody talking very quietly, saying, "Huh, we never thought of that." At that moment, I didn't know if there would be a future for me in physics, especially because this laboratory that I completely fell in love with did not at the time have employment protections for on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity or gender expression. I didn't know that I could continue in this path of being a physicist if there was no one like me. And when I tried to talk about the issues that I was facing at the time, in part employment, in part health insurance, parts of the time of things going on in my life, because this was also around the same time then, I started losing a number of friends to murder and suicide, and dealing with that on top of the rigors of academia and grad school, it's a very difficult thing to find somebody who gets it and who can talk to you about it. So I started LGBT Physicists. I like to say, because I was very selfishly looking for someone to talk to, and what we built out of that is a community that really showed us that all of us, so many of us in physics are LGBT, and not only that, we've learned that so many different minorities in physics, in science in general, we think that we're the only ones, and that it's all the issues we're facing, we're the only ones who are facing. And by coming together in community for the first time, we can learn that we are not alone, that the issues we face are systemic, and that there are solutions to them, and that you do not have to go through this alone. I'm so incredibly honored to be able to have built an organization that now, when I go out and meet young LGBT undergraduates at physics conferences and see them and meet them, and especially the freshmen who are kind of have no idea what they're doing, but they love physics, but don't know if they can be in it. I can now go to them and tell them that there is a community of us. We're waiting for you, and we want you to succeed, and we will help you in any way we can. Another piece of this, I mentioned this 1% level. How many of that are transgender as well? We have no idea. It took me almost 7 years to be able to get the simple demographic question, are you LGBT, onto American Physical Society, the big national physics organization membership list, where we could find out for the first time ever. We only got that one question on, but I wish we had gotten a lot more, but the rest of the survey we had control over for a separate one. So I definitely recommend looking that up, especially not just for the issues that LGBT people face, but within that we also found that intersectional issues faced by gender minorities within the LGBT community are extremely different. So we found rates of harassment and discrimination of LGBT women about 3 times higher than that of LGBT men. Gender nonconforming people about 4 times higher than that of LGBT men. And 1 out of every 2 trans people that we had surveyed had experienced directly discrimination or harassment within the field. Including almost 40% who regularly have colleagues use their incorrect name and pronouns for them, including some people who have been out in the workplace for decades. We found not only that, but a data point that is hard to put statistics on is when you have very small data sets. And we unfortunately did not get enough respondents of LGBT people of color to do a statistical analysis on. But we did do a series of interviews. We could do a qualitative study. And we found the same kind of issues there, that you get compounding issues when you would have racism on top of homophobia, on top of transphobia, on top of sexism. These things combine in really unique ways that people can't separate pieces of their identities for. And one of the things I'm very excited to be working on right now is I'm deputy chair for putting together a new forum of diversity and inclusion within the American Physical Society that when we get it created, it's still in the growing process, is going to be able to address issues facing LGBT people and people of color and women and people with disabilities, both visible and invisible, both physical and mental. Because I think one of the big things that we really miss out on within science is treating our students really well on issues of mental health. I think we're really bad at it, and I think we really need to talk about it more. And so I'm really excited to be part of this organization that's reaching out across all of these groups with representation, not only from my group, LGBT physicists, but from the National Society of Black Physicists, the National Society of Hispanic Physicists, the APS Committee on Minorities, APS Committee on the Status of Women in Physics, people with disabilities, all coming together to figure out and have extremely difficult conversations of what does it mean to have an inclusive science. Because what we all want to do, what excites each and every one of us, is to be able to go out at this beautiful universe, not only outside of us, around us, in this podium, but in ourselves, and be able to understand that, and look out from the farthest reaches of the cosmos, looking back billions of years from the beginning of the universe, and then looking out trillions of years into the future to figure out where we're going. We have a lot of really big questions that we need, science needs every single one of us to be able to help out with that effort. And there are so many cases of discrimination and harassment in science that I'm extremely proud to have been able to highlight at least some of, and know that I myself have a lot of work to do on this front as well, because our goal is not any smaller than trying to understand the whole of reality, because we are physicists and we are very arrogant that we think that's a goal we can get to. And we need the most help we can possibly get. So I'm very excited to be able to be a part of this, to be able to do this research, and I'm so excited to be able to be here in front of you to talk about it. Extremely thankful to Jamie White for being my advisor while I was here at Juniata, for the entire physics department, so many of you in the audience who have helped to show me that I could become a physicist. And not only that, but show me what a good physics department is that I can use as a model now as I begin my own path towards the tenure track, towards tenure, hopefully. Oh my goodness. I want to thank the whole alumni community. I want to thank President Troha, especially for the recent changes here on this campus that I'm so excited about, especially in regards to gender-neutral bathrooms. And places for trans students on campus. My only regret is that it's during the summer and I can't meet with our current trans students. But if, maybe I'll have to come back during the year and make sure that that happens again. I want to thank all the people through OSTEM, through LGBT physicists on my APS committee, people who have become really deep and dear friends, who have made me a better person, and who have helped me to survive in a field that I didn't know if I belonged in. And absolutely want to thank my husband, Julian, even though he's not here today, for spending years dealing with my many, many, many volunteer hours as I've gone through this. I'm doing, a Ph.D. on top of that, and research, and maintaining a marriage, and being a part of all of this. It's a lot of time. I like to say that I hate free time. And I really want to thank you all for being here as I get the sword today. Thank you.
Congratulations, Ellie. In recognition of the service that so many Juniatians provide to the world around us, the Alumni Association added the William E. Swigart Junior Alumni Humanitarian Award in 2001. This honor recognizes someone who, through vocation or avocation, has exercised significant leadership and through personal sacrifice has improved the lives of others. The recipient of the 2017 William E. Swigart Junior Humanitarian Award is Michael D. Johnston, class of 1977. Carl Glaeser, class of 1977, will present the award. Carl and Michael, please come forward.
Yes, Michael Johnston. What can we say about Michael? I actually polled some of his former classmates, and most of the stuff we can say, I can't say here. This will be a G-rated discussion, and I promise we won't get into too many details. Mike arrived to Tussey Terrace about 44 years ago. Wow, a long time ago. And he was their neighbor. He was coming from Juniata from the day-to-day supervision of the colonel, your father. Very nice gentleman. He stopped briefly to meet the judge and spent a few days there. Needless to say, Mike was ready for Juniata. But was Juniata ready for Mike? It was just like an episode of Fresh Off the Boat. Any of you ever see that show? All right, well, okay. Coming from Japan, where Mike was a Army brat, is that correct? This was a new experience for him, living in a permanent place for an extended period of time. Having a roommate, having less structure than he was used to. So it was truly a good experience. Alas, the man with the golden locks. And the freckles, who had shoulder-length blonde hair. Yes, time has a wonderful thing. Mike was always happy, he was smiling, even through his various roommates. Most people have issues with roommates when they're freshmen and coming to school. Mike had some unique issues. I would just share two of the stories. His first roommate, an expat, fled back somewhere through the dark of night. He was here for a few months. The next thing we knew, he was in Canada and then back to the UK. I don't know what happened, Mike. Second roommate, on the heels of the person leaving, going back, was closely observed, analyzed, and became a local guest of the PSP. That was number two, and we're not even halfway through the year yet. I will not go into any more details of Mike's roommates, but needless to say, Irene, Mike's partner, there's something to be concerned with her. Smiling through life, giving back is part of his life. Mike started and maintained the first pain clinic in Kauai. As a practicing Buddhist, Mike's life pronounces the articles of the faith. His humanitarian efforts are highlighted by his rhodoplast personal commitment for over 16 years. He's been in thousands of places, traveled thousands of miles, and in most continents, and in towns and cities where Google is still trying to find out where they're located. Mike's partner, Irene, also attends with him on many of these trips. His passion for helping in remote areas and helping people smile again, and also in this local community, is outstanding and worth a record and for any Juniata. To share something from his favorite poet, every silver lining has a touch of gray. It is all right. I will get by. I will survive. To Mike, my good friend, occasional fishing buddy, who I see either in Hawaii or New York once a year, it's time to read the citation. Whereas Michael D. Johnston a member of the class of 1977, has provided selfless service to his local and global community. And whereas graduating with a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from Juniata College, he earned his Doctor of Medicine degree from Temple University, School of Medicine in 1981, and completed an internship at the Lancaster General Hospital in 1982. And whereas through the National Health Service Corps, which serves their most vulnerable population who may otherwise go without care, he practiced emergency medicine in Lee County Community Hospital, Virginia, from 1982 to 1987. And whereas, after completing his residency in anesthesia at the University of Vermont in 1990, he became the attending anesthesiologist with the Kauai Medical Clinic and the Wilcox Medical Center, a position which he continues to serve today. In 2001, he first joined Rhodoplast International in a mission to help children and their families worldwide by eliminating the burden of cleft lip, cleft palate, burn scarring, and other deformities. Whereas in the years since, he has participated in over 25 overseas medical missions, traveling thousands of miles to perform life-changing surgeries for more than 2,500 children in countries such as Philippines, Peru, Venezuela, Vietnam, China, Bangladesh, India, Ethiopia, Liberia, Togo, Egypt, and many more. And whereas as a result of his effort, he was honored by the Rotary Club of Kauai with the Great Humanitarian Award in 2006 for exemplifying Rotary International's motto of service above self. And whereas Mike was named to the Rhodoplast International Board of Directors in 2012, a role he continues to serve. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this award is presented to him in recognition of his lifetime achievements in humanitarian efforts. It is an honor and a privilege to present Michael D. Johnston, class of 1977, with the prestigious William Swigart Alumni Humanitarian Award by the direction of the Alumni Council.
I don't know what to say. Actually, Carl said pretty much everything as far as my history here and things like that, and some my interesting history here. Yeah, I went through roommates like a lot of people go through underwear for some reason. That said, you know, for all of us, Juniata is a special place in our hearts. I come from a long history of Juniata graduates. In the audience here is my aunt, Sandy, who was the class of 1969. I have 3 cousins who went here, another uncle, 2 grandparents, and my nephew, Josiah, who was the class of 2020, who's also in the audience. One of the things that I learned here, or when I came here, yeah, I was interested in going to medical school, but somewhere along the line, I think in the winter of 1973, I met a man by the name of Jim Gooch, who is in the audience here also, who became a professor and a friend and a mentor. I was here to learn biology, and the first time I met this guy, he was teaching me Greek literature. How does that work? Well, that's how Juniata works. And the one thing that I have to say about Juniata that I have to give great thanks for is a lifetime of not only a liberal arts education, but as well as a lifetime of wanting to learn. Flash forward to the public health service, and then when I was a resident in anesthesia at the University of Vermont, one of my professors by the name of Dave Smale took a trip with a group called Interplast, and he went to shoot. He went to the Dominican Republic, and he came back and he was full of excitement about what he had done, which was operate on children with cleft lips and cleft palates. And his enthusiasm, as well as just sort of an interest of mine in doing stuff like that, piqued an interest in me. And at that point in time, I asked as a resident if I could go along on a trip like this. Well, I never got the chance. I mean, residency and you're busy and things like that. A couple years go by. I'm, as you can tell from either reading or how I'm dressed, I live in Hawaii. I've lived there for 27 years. And after approximately 10 years of working and being happy, we all reach a little point of fatigue in our jobs where we ask, is this all there is? What else is there that we can do in life? I have a house, I have a pickup truck, surely there's something more. Anyway, I'm being facetious. But there was a particular day when one of our nurses in the hospital, a man by the name of D.Q. Jackson, who was a Rotarian, and I asked her, are there any Rotarians in the audience? All I can say is, God bless you guys for the things that you do. D.Q. Jackson was a Rotarian. And he came to me and he said, Michael, how would you like to go overseas on a medical mission? And it was one of those sort of just harmonic convergences of, perfect storms. And I said, sure, I'd like to do that. And in 2001, I went to Cebu City in the Philippines with a group called Rotoplast. And shameless promotion here at www.rotoplast.org. We're largely funded by the Rotary Clubs. It's an organization that does cleft lip, cleft palate operations worldwide. We also do burns and other congenital deformities that we can. But our primary mission is cleft lips and palates. I went to Cebu City, and on our first day of clinic, saw over 250 children with cleft lip and cleft palate deformities that had either, some of the kids had already had surgeries on their lips and were waiting to do their palates. And we saw every one of these kids. Every one of these kids, of course, has a story. This is the Philippines, one of the poorest countries in the world. These are some of the poorest kids in the poorest countries in the world. And on that trip, we fixed over 125 cleft lips and palates. On the first day of work, I plugged in a monitor plugged the 120 volt monitor into the 220 volt circuit. Tried the monitor and I thought, okay, my career is over. The day after that, the woman who was the head nurse, who was also the coordinator of the medical teams, came to me and asked me to pull me aside and wanted to talk to me. I thought, God, she wants me to pay for the monitor. She opened up a folder she had in her hand, and there was a calendar in it. And she said, when can you go on your next trip? Two things happened. One, I knew I was okay. And the second is that opened the door for where I am today. Since then, I've gone on, I don't know how many trips, 20, 25 plus, to the places that Carl has mentioned. And a couple of stories have stood out about why I do this. The first was there in Cebu City when a 9-year-old child, who was the son of a woman who worked in a bar, who was born with a cleft lip and palate, and the child was abandoned at birth by the mother. He was around 9 years old, and he realized now that he was different. He had been taken in by an, quote, aunt. I'm not sure whether she was a genetic aunt or not, but it was a woman he called mommy. We operated on this child, and as is our habit, our recovery nurses bring along a small vanity mirror to show the children who are old enough what they look like. So in the recovery room, they showed this child his new face as he's emerging from anesthesia. The aunt is there, and the first words out of his mouth are, "Mommy, mommy, now I can sing." Wasn't a dry eye in the place. Another event that happened, which sealed what I do, was on my second trip. I was in Tacna, Peru, which is in the bottom of Peru, down by the Chilean border. And we operated on a 15-year-old girl who had a large bilateral cleft lip deformity. And she had actually had it repaired. She was coming back for a revision, and actually sort of a complex procedure where you take a little bit of the lower lip, put it up to the upper lip, and sew their mouth shut, and then you come back and divide it. Gives them some fullness. It gives them an upper lip. Well, I have to stay in the hospital because their mouth is sewn shut for about a week or so. And, I get to know her. We have to go see her every day on rounds. She's speaking Spanish. I'm speaking to her through a translator. What do you want to do in life? Oh, I want to go to college. What do you want to study? I'd like to study English. What do you want to do? Oh, I'd like to help kids, who have the same problem as I do, and stuff like this. Just a, wonderful girl. Had to post her pictures with her while we were there. 5 years later, I'm in La Arroya, Peru, which is a hospital at 14,000 feet in the Peruvian Andes. This girl shows up. She's now 20 years old. She's there with her mother. She comes to see us. She speaks to us in perfect English. What are you doing? I'm in college. What are you majoring in? English and computer science. Are you getting good grades? Yes, I am. She's speaking to us in perfect English, by the way. Anything else going on in your life? She leans over. And as it happened to be, the surgeon who had done the original surgery was also with me on that trip, who was a dear, dear friend. She leaned over to us and she said, "I have a boyfriend." What do we want in life? Think Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Shelter, food, family, protection, self-actualization. We all want to grow up and be loved and have a loved one and have a significant relationship with someone else. And this girl had. And before this, with this face, with this deformity, there's no way that that could have happened. These events and events that have occurred on countless trips have cemented my reason, my dedication, my whatever, why this needs to be done, why I do this. I want to thank my wife, who for the last 17 years has put up with me taking our vacation time to go all over the planet, and we don't go to garden spots. I want to thank my coworkers who give me time off to do this. And I want to thank my friends for being supportive. I want to thank Juniata for giving me the education and giving me the mindset to pursue a life like this. I think Dick Winters, who was a major in the, the 82nd Airborne, when they asked him He had a grandchild who asked him, Grandpa, were you a hero? And he said, no, I wasn't. I served with heroes. And I can say that the men and women that I travel with are my heroes. We go 12 to 15 times a year and work in some pretty poor countries to take care of some of the most poorest children in the world. Many of these volunteers are retirees or active academicians. One of them is the retired chairman of plastic surgery at the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, Don Rosso, who was chairman of plastic surgery at the University of Pennsylvania. No small deal. Was the author of a textbook about this deck entitled Cleft Lip, Cleft Palate Surgery. I walked into an operating room in Cebu City in the Philippines, and there was this gentleman who was in his 70s at the time, bent over a wooden table, because they didn't have an operating room table, operating on a very, very small child. Mozart was playing in the background on a small set of portable speakers. Here was the man who probably was the world's expert on cleft lips and cleft palates. And here he was quietly operating on the poorest children in the world. And for that, and the honor to work with these men and women, I am forever grateful. And to Juniata and to the alumni, I'm also very thankful for this. Thank you very much.
The Brumbaugh Alumni Service Award has been given annually since 1971. It honors someone who has volunteered his or her time unselfishly and enthusiastically for Juniata College, and who is an exceptional model for all Juniata alumni to follow. The recipient of the 2017 Harold B. Brumbaugh Alumni Service Award is Karen Beck, class of 1993. Jim Donaldson, class of 1967, will present the award. Jim and Karen, please come forward.
I have to start with a shout out to my classmates, the great class of 1967. Many of us on campus this weekend had the privilege of knowing and working with Harold Brumbaugh. Placing his name on this award has been a fitting and lasting tribute to HB and his lifelong service to Juniata College. The best thing about having been a Juniata College professor is the opportunity to work with young minds. Some were more challenging, some were interesting, and a much smaller number were truly memorable. The citation I'm going to read in a few minutes will recount why my former student and my friend Karen Beck is one of those truly memorable ones, and why she so very, very deservedly has been selected for the Alumni Service Award. When Christy Givney first approached me about reading the citation, my response was something along the lines of, I would have been bitterly disappointed, had I not been at least considered. What I'm going to tell you in very personal terms is why this woman is so special. fall of 1992, Karen had just returned from study abroad in Germany. So I asked her to talk to my students in introduction to business classes to promote international education. What a saleswoman. What a wonderful role model for first-year students. Spring of 1993, by some scheduling quirk, there were only 6 students enrolled in my marketing communications class, and half of them were internationals. 6 was an unbelievably low number, and for a course that had been typically taught with case studies and projects, it was a wonderful opportunity. It suddenly became a seminar. I wonder if Karen can name the other 5 people in the seminar. Not that this is a quiz. Chicos? Goose? Guido?
Oh, right.
There we go.
I studied for this part.
David Wardell? All right, I know, that's right. Annette? Good, very good. Got 2. There we go.
Oh, Terry, right.
Yes. Okay.
Greater on the curve.
Part 2 of the quiz is whether Karen remembers what her seminar topic was. She remembered the limited corporation, which is what she studied in the retailing class. That's not the seminar class.
So much for this one.
It was called The Effectiveness of Advertising. And I have proof because I still have a copy of it. I do. We all know Karen is an energetic and gregarious person. I cite her seminar work because it's a different dimension of her. It was so good, so very good, that it became required reading for several subsequent iterations of that course. That's how good it was. And I have copies of that too. Browsing through her paper recently, several passages jumped out. Paraphrased. Jingles and slogans are important to a product's identity. Companies are ever reviving old ones. For example, Rice-A-Roni. That's what it says here, San Francisco treat. A tune so drummed to an American's first television generation that most baby boomers can still hear it. The next passage was almost a prophecy. It is also important to realize slogans can misfire and get to be meaningless. Of course, not everyone's sold on slogans. The Leo Burnett Agency has produced some of advertising's best recalled slogans, such as, "Fly the friendly skies of United." During seminar discussions and conversations, Karen, always helpful, would frequently break into German to help explain a difficult concept to the international students. Except for alumni employed currently at Juniata College and my son Eric, class of 92, and his daughter-in-law Tammy, class of 93, I have had more contact with Karen than any other Juniata alum. Among my Facebook photos, there's one very special one taken 5 years ago in front of Cloister, showing Karen and me with our very good friend Kristen Holloway Carriera, class of 97, on the occasion of Kristen's having received the Alumni Humanitarian Award, for which I read the citation. The hidden significance of the photo is that all 3 of us roomed in Cloister 202. Not simultaneously, but years apart, and in my case, decades apart. Karen was very instrumental in Kristen not only choosing Juniata, but also in studying abroad in Germany. Karen and Kristen are close friends to this day,
and enjoy reminiscing about the time Karen hosted Kristen in her dorm room during an enrollment open house. Karen recently attended a concert by the touring Juniata Concert Choir, sending her the program and choir CD to remind Kristen of her own cherished years singing with that choir. That's Karen, forever helpful, forever caring, forever thinking about others. When it comes to reading award citations, I've been twice blessed. Kristen generously contributed to these comments. In my files, I found a 1993 reference letter for Karen. There was a graphic continuous rating scale across 13 attributes. All were rated, the range went from below average to excellent, measuring 13 attributes. All were marked excellent, but there were 3 that were way out there, virtually off the scale. I have a copy of it. Motivation, responsibility, and quality of work. At the risk of quoting myself, that letter said, Karen is the kind of student who makes teaching a rewarding experience. I think she will use her positive traits in any endeavor she undertakes. To close, and since the president can't take back this award, I can now reveal that a recent contact prior to this weekend happened in early April. Karen phoned, and after some pleasantries asked if I would be around for a reunion weekend. I reminded her that it was my 50th. She asked if my Karen, Professor Karen Roselle, and I were going to be attending the award ceremony. Recipients are not supposed to know ahead of time too much about the ceremony, and they are not told in advance who's going to read their citation. My silence prompted her to say, rather sternly, "You do know I'm getting an award." See my dilemma? Well, I said, Karen, somebody's got to read your citation. And here it is. What I'm about to read is a beautifully crafted citation. I did not write it, and the importance of that comment will be self-evident in just a moment. Whereas Karen V. Beck, a member of the class of 1993, has provided selfless and unwavering service and support to her alma mater with contagious energy and loyalty, and whereas she began her service to Juniata as an undergraduate by volunteering as an overnight host for prospective students, and by serving as a member of the Juniata College Admission Association, a student organization that supported enrollment, and whereas she has cultivated the network of Juniata in the Philadelphia region by attending and organizing events for alumni, parents, and friends of the college, and by serving on the Delaware Valley Juniata Club leadership team, and whereas she has served as her class reunion committee member for many years, and whereas she has mentored students and young alumni by attending and hosting networking events, serving as a member of the Juniata career team, and serving as a resource for students in Professor Donaldson's intro to business classes. And whereas she served as a member of the Alumni Council from 1998 to 2001, and whereas she has given generously of herself in investing in Juniata, working with fellow alumni and friends to honor Professor Emeritus Klaus Jaeger and Evelyn Pembroke, former alumni relations specialist, through endowed scholarships. And whereas in 1993, she began cultivating her student recruitment legacy as a volunteer with the Juniata Admission Ambassadors, known then as Juniata Admissions Volunteers, attending countless college fairs, making high school visits on behalf of the college, and reaching out to prospective students, which has helped her recruit more than 27 students to Juniata over the years. And whereas Karen has served as volunteer chair of JAA since 2008, training and coordinating volunteers working to generate alumni support at prospective student events, promoting the program for Alumni Weekend and Homecoming, managing content and creating orientation videos for the JAA website, and regularly committing nearly 200 hours to this work annually. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Juniata Alumni Association acknowledges and appreciates all that she has done and continues to do for Juniata. It's an honor and a privilege to present Karen V. Beck with the prestigious Harold B. Brumbaugh Alumni Service Award by direction of the Alumni Council.
Good morning. Well, I think now afternoon. President Jennifer, trustees, alumni, special guests, and my sister. Thank you for sharing this day with me and my fellow award recipients. Juniata friends, I'm honored and deeply grateful to be recognized with this award. Thank you very much. I'll go a little bit off script here. One thing that I was thinking to myself when I was told that I was receiving this award, how am I going to compare with the other people that will be up here with me? They've done amazing things, saved lives, influenced research. But then I thought, well, they all got their start at Juniata, so that's where I come in. A number of fellow volunteers have influenced me over the years. Many of those who inspired me are past recipients of this award, and I'm honored to be included among them. I am proud to be a Juniata volunteer. It's not something I do when I have the time, but it's something that I make the time to do. There's a passion that drives me. For those of you who don't know me, I love Juniata. We are featured in the book Colleges That Change Lives because of the special community found here. I wholeheartedly believe in that and know for certain that Juniata is still changing me to this day. There's something intangible here, but we all know what it is. The feeling, the energy, the memories. We feel it when we are back on campus. That's why we're all here this weekend, to share and celebrate this place that means so much. Volunteering as an ambassador gives me opportunities to sustain this energy when I'm back at home. Interacting with other alumni, current students, and prospective students and their families gives me the chance to share my stories and strengthen the Juniata connection. But it's more than that. Juniata is a safe place. A place where you can try something new, make a difference, and be a part of something greater than yourself. Whenever I'm here on campus, I feel focused and driven and inspired by the collaboration of everyone on the team. Receiving that kind of validation and support from the community drives me to continue my involvement and seek out more ways to contribute. Receiving this award has prompted me to look back on the events and people who have influenced me. First, all of you who have participated over the years. As JAA Chair, one of the most important things I can do is thank volunteers for their service. So thank you to everyone in this room for helping to spread the word about Juniata. Thank you for sharing stories about your college days with your friends, family, and neighbors. Thank you for wearing a Juniata t-shirt. Thank you for attending a college fair in your town. Thank you for using the community scholarship to identify students who would be a perfect fit. Thank you for putting a Juniata sticker on your car. And if you aren't currently involved in these activities but would like to be, see me afterwards. And now some of my own personal thank you messages. Thank you to my parents who encouraged me to find the place that would be my perfect fit and who tolerate my excitement whenever I have another Juniata story to tell. Thanks to my sister for being here this weekend and for appreciating my dedication to Juniata. I'm sorry you don't have the same connection to your school. But please know you're always welcome here. thank you to these three people who have proven that personal connections make a difference. A quick story for each one. As a freshman, I thought it would be a good idea for us to write notes to incoming students to welcome them to the marching band. I wrote to Mike Lehman, and little did I know we would become pen pals for that whole summer and very good friends to this day. Jamie is a student from Philadelphia who I met at her off-campus interview that we hosted at my office in Ardmore. We kept in touch all during her college search, and I was the first person she called when she picked Juniata. She did wonderfully here and just graduated 2 weeks ago. And the third one, I had the privilege to deliver an acceptance packet to Bianca a few months ago. I met her family for lunch and we chatted for hours. They were all so excited. She will be here as a freshman in the fall. Thank you to Dan O'Sullivan for welcoming me as co-chair of JAA when I wanted to be more involved. His own contributions to Juniata are too many to mention, but it never fails that he will still have new ideas about JAA whenever we discuss some aspect of the program. Thank you for supporting me and trusting me to carry on. Terry Goldman was my admission counselor. She visited my high school and we sat in a cramped little resource room off the guidance office, and she told me stories of a place where I could learn more about myself and have many opportunities beyond what I had available to me so far. I told her about things that interested me, and she responded with, "You can do that at Juniata." She took the time to listen to me, learn about me, and get to know me. Then, as a student, I was her student assistant in the admission office and helped to counsel prospective students in her region. This might sound a bit familiar. One of the most memorable was Kristen Holloway. We weren't even students at the same time, but developed a close friendship, kept in touch during her years as a student, and a few years ago, made plans for alumni weekend so that we'd be here on campus together. She studied marketing in German as I did and was also an advisee of Professor Donaldson. And then I go into the funny story about the three of us having spent a year living in the same room. Great minds think alike, I guess. The connections here run so deep. Tara Banerjee is a former admission counselor and was my liaison for JAA. We got to know each other years ago when she was recruiting in New Jersey. We had some very busy off-campus interview weekends, as well as some very fun dinners together. Her guidance and insight really helped me to better understand how alumni can support admission. Thanks so much for being here today. Michelle Bartle also works in admission. I think we first met on the bus when I came to the overnight visit known as Journey to Juniata. She still has as much enthusiasm now as she did then. She was part of the team in the office when I worked for Terry, and being around them on a daily basis really shaped my work ethic. They treated us as coworkers, not just students, and gave me my first experience as part of a collaborative work environment. These days, anytime we talk, I'm energized and entertained, and even during those late night phone calls when you're driving back from a college fair. I'm really glad that we've had so many opportunities to work together and become such good friends over the years. Evelyn Pembroke, as many of you know, is one of the most warm and welcoming people. Whenever I'd return to campus, I'd stop into her office first. Regardless of what she was doing, she would take a quick break for a hug and a hello. It's exactly what I needed after that long drive. And to you, Professor Donaldson, my advisor, mentor, friend, and personal cheerleader. Thank you for your encouragement, support, and guidance. As students, you forced us to think and apply our knowledge outside of the classroom. I'm still grateful to you for that to this day. Thank you for your advice on job searching and soul searching. Whether it's a quick email or a more lengthy conversation, I always learn from you. Most students have an advisor for 4 years, but 20-some years later, your office door is still open to me, even when there is no longer an office. How lucky am I? So thank you all for being part of my special connection to Juniata and for the opportunity to share my stories with you today.
And congratulations again to all of our award recipients. Let's give them one final round of applause. One of the greatest honors of serving on Alumni Council is having the opportunity to learn about and meet the alumni who are nominated for these awards. In the coming weeks, I encourage all of you to think about the Juniata alumni you know who might be deserving of such an honor. Using the information in your program, please submit names to the Alumni Office so that Alumni Council might consider them in the future. Thank you again for joining us during this special occasion. As we close today's program, please stand as you are able. Heidi Neff-Werner, class of 1994, will lead us in saying the alma mater.
Science, technology, the humanities, and service, these recipients certainly exemplify everything that Juniata stands for. So let's sing in honor of them and this great institution.